Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Evazine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off. Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Evazine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off.
Blast off on another episode of Hero Paranormal Podcast, broadcasting from the base at La Madre Mountain just south of Area 51. My name is Ryan, the original outlaw of the airwaves, bringing you an epic episode today. We have Adam Taula, who is, well, kind of a Utah paranormal sensation. I've been on investigations with Adam. He's the real deal. And it's been a while since I've talked to him, so I'm really excited to ask him about the recent government UFO report. He follows these types of things, and I'm really interested to find his perspective on what is going on. I actually spoke earlier today about the same subject matter with someone from the Deseret News. That article should be coming out in correspondence with some other people who were basically interviewed. And that should be coming out in a couple days, so that should be exciting. Adam and I have not investigated recently, but in the past, I went on a paranormal investigation to a railway station, of all things, a haunted railway station. And among the things that happened to us, I'll be honest, I mean, I was a skeptic and a hard sell, but we had actual toilets flushing on us when we would walk through one of the restrooms, and there were other things. So there was a lot of paranormal activity in this particular building. I don't know if we can mention where it was and what happened, but I'm going to wait and see what Adam says, and if we can, we will. And there's been a lot of speculation as to the recent UFO government report. I think it's going to hold a lot of answers in the long term. Right now, it kind of seems like a big nothing burger, but let's see where this goes without further ado. And, oh wait, I've got to self-promote that shamelessness. If you haven't been to heroparanormal.com, please go there, hit that button, that donate button, smash it, and you are in the inner circle, and you will get more than you bargained for the price of just a barista cup of coffee a month. You will be in the know and one of the patrons. We are also on Patreon. Find us at heroparanormal.com. Actually, it's just Hero Paranormal on Patreon. So anyway, there's this shameless self-promotion. Now, without further ado, Adam Taula, welcome to the Hero Paranormal Podcast, my man. I think I lost you there for a second. You there?
Good. Just been busy doing house stuff and being a suburban person, you know? Geez.
Right. And I haven't talked to you since all this crazy COVID stuff. I know you guys got a house and things are going well. I saw something. What's up with the YouTube channel, the Paranormal Polynesian? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's just this new thing I decided to start. I figured I've been to so many places over the years. I thought I would go back and just kind of share the stories of the experiences. I've moved so many times. I'm trying to find all my evidence, but I still can't find everything. But, yeah, I wanted to do a travel channel where I go to different haunted locations or just talk about history of cool places or just something, weird or interesting I find while I'm traveling.
I think it's great. And you also, if I could be mistaken on this, you had the situation, I believe your whole YouTube channel got deleted or disappeared one day, right? That sounds horrifying.
Yeah, I did. I did that myself, and so that was fun. I deleted the whole thing. That's how good I am with technology, Ryan. I'm like an 80-year-old woman. I still have no idea what I'm doing.
Hey, I don't either. It's a miracle that anything works. And I was going to ask you, we had a few cool investigations. One of the cool ones was down at the haunted railway station where the toilets were flushing and other stuff happened. Do you remember that investigation?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, at the depot.
Yeah, I didn't know. Is it okay to say where it's at? And you want to tell the listeners?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, cool.
Are you okay with? So, are we going to talk about your bed and breakfast since that's like where so many?
Let's go there. Yeah, let's go there. Let's do it.
I just don't know what all you're wanting to speak about. But I know we've got some crazy stories over the years.
We do. One of the craziest was, I remember we went up into the Uinta Basin and we were with some other people, and other people, I've done this as well, and they just say, I'm done. I'm not coming back here. Do you want to go into that one? That was pretty fun.
Yeah. There's so many things that happened out there. I'm just trying to narrow it down. I mean, do you remember, well, the one that sticks out of my mind is the last time we went when we were with Sarah.
Yep, I remember that.
Well,
yeah.
And, but no, feel free to talk about anything. I mean, you were there, so you know some crazy things went on. And, of course, you know they still do. That place is nuts.
It is nuts. And I remember we were kind of engaging with some lights up on a ridge line in the Badlands there. And
And we were all seeing it happen. And then I think, actually, I have the video of it on a camcorder.
Wow.
But it wasn't happening. Is that the one you're speaking of?
I'm sure it's the same one. Yep.
Yeah, because as we're playing back the footage, there's nothing in the camera. And so it's like we were all hallucinating it at the same time. So yeah, that's one of the big ones. I remember the little girl kind of in the bushes. Mm-hmm. I was telling a story about the Queen Mary because I had just gone from an investigation there. And then we all started hearing a little girl in the sagebrush. Do you remember that?
I do. Super freaky. Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, the flashing mountain that you had in the back of your bed and breakfast.
Yeah, and you went up to the bed and breakfast quite a bit back then, and it was pretty active before. Now it's just I've rented it to a family that's okay with that kind of thing, and they're a really good fit. Yeah, so it's like a good fit for right now. But back then, I mean, it was pretty active, and that mountain, you're not kidding. It would just light up and pulse and do all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah, and I remember seeing some big black thing crawling in the ground towards the house one night with Lindsay. Mm-hmm. The tall man, remember the tall guy that people were seeing running around the backyard?
That was freaky. You know, a lot of people saw that, including my mom one day. And that, kind of these shadowy entities, it's kind of spooky when you start looking into these, aren't it? It's like they're different.
I know. Yeah, you had a lot of poltergeist type things happening in the rooms too. I remember, having Janice next to me because we shared that room by the garden, and I would hear her next to me and get out of bed, and she'd already been up for hours, but I was wide awake and there was someone in the bed next to me.
Whoa.
Or just the voice of some man shouted, I remember, in that corner room at the front corner by the front of the house, and just was shouting at me to get up, and there was no one there. I just remember all sorts of poltergeist type stuff.
And that room's interesting. There was actually a case, there was a TV crew up recording, I forget which show, and this was not on camera, but one of the crew was full on possessed in that room. And
oh, really?
Yeah, some other crew members witnessed it. And afterwards, he had no idea what had happened. Didn't know. I mean, very strange stuff has happened in that room for sure.
That room is definitely the room that I was just super uncomfortable in. I remember I always was like, Janice, you better be getting in here and sleeping with me in here. I'm not sleeping by myself in this room. I just remember that room was always kind of off.
Right. And something strange is it was always closest to that woodshed, which always kind of had, for some reason, it was always I don't know. I saw a few things retreat behind the woodshed, but we used to have some pretty good sky watches up there. I kind of miss that. That was a good time.
I know, that was a lot of fun. I wish there was a way to go out and just do that again sometime, legally. But I know you can't, and there's just so many people trying to go out there because of the show that's on, right? Mm-hmm. So, who knows? One of these days.
And speaking of gosh, so much going on, UFOs in the sky. What do you think of the new government reports on UFOs, and what's your opinion on that subject?
Oh, I just briefly saw something about that, but I haven't had a chance to even look at them all. But I think that's awesome. I mean, it's funny that it's taken this long, right?
Right. It's been a long time, and it's about time it starts getting some recognition. It's I don't know, it's horrific. It's one of those things that, like, mankind has always sort of culturally seen this in the past historically, and it's funny that now we're engaging in such a much more modern way than mankind did in the past.
Yeah, I know. It's just funny to me that there's just so many people that can't grasp that could be a possibility. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Don't you think? I mean, after all the things that you've seen,
Oh, yeah. And it's one of those things.
Reports.
There's a lot of documentation. There's government finances going towards studying it right there in the Uinta Basin, where we were seeing it. And the interesting thing is, I mean, we're talking about, I believe it was called the Advanced Aerial Threat Identification Program, ATIP, was right there in the Uinta Basin. And the interesting thing is, not only is it's getting government attention, but they're worried about it. And yeah,
really?
Yeah,
okay.
Like I guess when you see,
I'm so sorry. I've had such a crazy week, so I haven't even looked into this. So tell me a little more. I'm sorry. So they're saying, was this with Bigelow's thing or?
Well, it was at the time. Now that it's hard to get FOIA requests on ATIP. You get a lot more stuff about OSAP, which was more of a weapons application system that came after. But yes, the agent or the for plausible deniability, the private contractor was Bigelow, and so yeah, pretty interesting stuff. And it gets into quantum technologies and. It's really interesting to see these tricksters of the sky, whatever they are, and it's definitely getting some attraction from national media and the government itself. So I mean, that's a good thing. I'm with you. I think it's a great thing.
That is, I always knew that. I mean, there just had to be so much more to that place than any of us know. So. That is really neat to know that they've actually brought that to light. So I can't wait to read more about everything. I'm going to take a look at everything.
It's a long and boring report, but like those are the highlights. But there's some other interesting stuff that actually one of the Space Wolf research guys, Jonathan Hunt, he found some really interesting, I don't know if it's real, I don't know if it's not, but it's like leaks and that were supposedly sent to Richard Dolan, among others, that he's kind of tied together with this K-Song propulsion system. Anyway, I'll give you the quick rundown. Like this is what was leaked to him, and this was a day ago. And the classified portion of the UAP report given to a select number of congressmen and senators relates the following. 1, energy propulsion system projects, and then 2, ion propulsion systems. 3 is anti-gravity propulsion systems. 4 is antimatter propulsion systems. 5 is ramjet hydrogen propulsion systems. 6 is compressed nuclear propulsion systems. 7 is advanced use of exotic elements for energy research. And 8 is the K-Song Energy Propulsion System Research Project. And this is the big one, I guess. So basically K-Song, all these highly classified projects are under the control of the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA, and being managed by a classified group called Advanced Group 6. So I guess all the funding for these projects is black confidential funds appropriated under intelligence operations costs, and some funds come from the private contractors. Prototypes of flying crafts utilizing the above technology are being flown at Area 51 and Tonopah Test Range. Prototypes of flying crafts utilizing, this in Nevada can be contributed to crafts using the above propulsion systems. However, none of the experimental craft have flown outside of the test and training range, and none of these experimental craft can be contributed to the sightings photographed by the U.S. Navy. So they're kind of saying, I don't know. The leak kind of says that this stuff is happening. And what Jonathan found, which is pretty cool, is that he thinks he found the doctor called Kay Song, who wrote a paper called Preliminary Operational Aspects of Microwave-Powered Airships and Drones. So he might be onto something. And the really cool thing that Jonathan found is that this preliminary operational system, I'll just read the abstract of the paper that this guy wrote, so I don't read the whole however zillions of pages. But the paper that this doctor wrote, Dr. Kay Song, and I won't say his full name, but the paper reports the development of an experimental airship drone powered by microwaves as a precursor towards a large-scale airship drone for cargo transportation in mind, under the collaboration with the U.S. Federal Highway Administration and universities. Now, the weird thing is the research work on a 2.2 m long airship. I don't know if that's miles or meters or millimeters, but I guess it's powered by X-band microwaves and has provided sufficient data for the design and analysis for the Operation Airship Drone. Let's see. And then it goes into explaining how it works, which is beyond my pay grade. And anyway, the data shows the feasibility of practical use and the microwave power for a transportation airship drone enough that they've backed him. So I don't know. I think we have some pretty cool stuff, but again, I don't think it's the stuff, like they're saying, that these Navy ships are, these pilots are recording.
What do you think it is?
It's hard to say because mankind has always sort of seen stuff in the sky and tried to explain it with the best means it has possible at the time. So back in biblical times, obviously they were calling them angels and demons and burning bushes and all this crazy cool stuff. And it's in all kinds of biblical interpretation and paintings and pictures and such illustrations. But I think, these tricksters of the sky, whatever you want to call them, now we are trying to pick them apart via technology. And that is interesting because it appears to be technology to us, but it did not appear to be technology to the ancients or the, more historic clans of people, tribes, and cultures that have interacted with it in the past. So it's almost like whatever you bring to the table, however you want to view it is how you view it. And I'm just wondering if it's mimicking actual technology when it's not, or if it is a real technology, it's pretty cool.
That is crazy. That is crazy, and that's so over my head, Ryan. Jeez, that's like I need to have a day and like think about all of this. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I can't believe. And that's it's just been happening right there in your backyard.
We've seen this stuff for years, and I think the high deserts have some. Obviously, there's less people. And you're able to see more of the sky, but there is something very different going on in the skies of the Uinta Basin, it seems.
And I don't know anything, of course, but I think it's like a combination of multiple things,
Mm-hmm.
I think the native people had some really strong stories and reasons to be afraid of that area. And then I think there could be multiple things going on with testing. I think there's just more to it. There's no one explanation. That's what makes that place so intriguing.
I agree.
It's just unlike anywhere else.
And I'm glad you bring up the Native American aspect because I think that's a really big part of it. And it's very important to that area and the people of that area.
It is, and it's not anything they take lightly, and so that's why I'm always so torn about it too. Because I know. My husband's dad grew up there. He raised cattle and sheep.
Is that right?
And,
Okay.
Yeah, and so he's from Duchesne, and so he had so many stories of just places you don't go. Mm-hmm. You just don't go there in that area, and they were just always told to never go in that vicinity. But yeah, it's a part of the culture in the area, and it reminds me so much of my culture, which is so similar to Native American. I mean, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. Native Pacific Islanders, we have all the same stories of skinwalkers mm-hmm. in our culture as well. So it's just very interesting. And I felt, I don't know, I feel a very weird connection to that place like 9 Mile Canyon, which also slightly terrifies me.
Very much, yes.
And it's just like, it's a feeling I can't explain that other people that go, they don't get that same feeling. I don't know what I'm even trying to say, but it's just like something that I'm drawn to, and it's not anything that's even like malicious. It's just like something ancient that draws me to those areas that I can't explain. Like I feel some sort of connection, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I think you are more sensitive to like that into the fray type power, and you're more of an empath, at least in my opinion, just from what I've seen. And what I've read and researched. People that are more in tune are more conducive to that, and to those feelings and to the areas, and they have more of a connection. Yeah,
and it's I felt feelings there that I've never felt in my life, from extreme terror to amazement. I mean, just the whole spectrum of everything. And the only place I've ever felt that way are in some of these ancient spots I've gone to in Utah, like the Parawan Gap. Mm-hmm. I went there recently, and I had a whole thing there, and I just felt that same sort of crazy connection that I felt in Skinwalker Ranch. And I've never felt it in the only other place I've ever felt it is when I'm on the islands, where my dad was from. Mm-hmm. And I'm, there. That's the only other place I felt that sort of connection. So I don't know what that means, but it's super, super weird and interesting.
That is super cool. And the Parawan is an interesting area. And an interesting thing about the name Parawan mm-hmm. is it means in Native American, the language of the area there, it means the devil is in the water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is such a crazy name for like an area.
Yeah, go figure. And that's kind of that's what it kind of felt like. I felt very, very cautious there. I felt like I had to be very cautious and reverent, just like respectful. I've gone off the rails on ghost investigations. We all know this, and I love to have fun and screw around.
Sure.
When the nights are getting long and nothing's happening and you want to chat with your group members. But, in these kinds of places, I don't feel like I can do that. It's very, it's very deep and strange to me.
Yeah, it's like there's not really a lot of room for mistakes in these areas versus, like you said, some of these ghost investigations when it's like obvious nothing's going to happen for a while. It's like we can hang out. But, yeah, it's really different. Yeah, and that's just something that's so neat about this place that we live, this area of the world. It's unlike, it really is unlike anywhere else. And I've traveled a lot in my life, and you just can't find the things that we have here. So who knows? That's why it's paranormal. It is paranormal, and it leads into so much other things like the multiverse theory. And I wanted to jump into In your investigations, Adam, we haven't talked for a while. Have you utilized any of that new technology? What is it? They have Randonautica now. They have different AI technologies where you can like go to specific points, or have you used any new technology that we weren't using back in the day that has been helpful ghost hunting or doing anything of this type?
You know, it's so funny because I've gone out with plenty of people that do use all of those things. I'm the worst because I'm just like kind of skeptical about some of these, and I know they're scientifically backed, but if it's like an app on my cell phone, I'm not going to ever really trust that, of course. Mm-hmm. I just, I don't really even need it, if that makes sense. Like, I don't need to prove anything anymore to myself because I've seen so much. And so I think yes, I might get some equipment because I am starting this channel where I'm going to try and hopefully go and investigate places for people to see. But for me, I don't ever really use the technology aspect. I'm very old school. I'm just, like camera, voice recorder, me, and that's usually done the trick.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how I've always been. But I can definitely see the need for it, and I think it's really neat. But it's like, I couldn't even figure out how to hook my mic up to do this Skype phone call today. So I'm not the most tech savvy person.
Well, that might be a good thing because I'm telling you, I've kind of gone the same way. And where I used to just, blanket things in cameras, shooting every which direction. And recorders and stuff. I've noticed that, I agree with you that there seems to be more activity. The more basic and more human the engagement with the phenomenon tends to be.
Yeah, and that's all I'm after myself in my life is the human aspect of it. I love, for me, doing just the investigation with the people, meeting the people, hearing the stories of the places that you are, the history, just that human connection part. That's the reason I want to start doing it some more again. Especially with being without any real human connection, right, for the past year or so.
Right.
I'm just interested in getting back out and going to these places, hearing the stories, and then just seeing the human aspect of it, because to me that's the best part.
It really is. And a lot of the consciousness studies and focus on the observer, in the paranormal or with these UAPs or UFOs, they're finding that, at least it seems as if, the observer is a key part. So like the human aspect, like you're talking about, is actually probably the key to opening a lot of these interesting areas to observation, to these displays that seem to be coming out. And there's a very, where the rubber meets the road, kind of human aspect of engaging with the phenomenon. And if you're tinkering and messing with gadgets all the time, and you've got, big screens, and I've seen all kinds of stuff. I've seen people show up with so much stuff, and it's just like, when it's that distracting, you might actually be hindering the display.
Oh, I think absolutely, yeah. And there is a time and a place for that. I understand these big TV shows, they need to do that because, they're coming in for a day or two. Mm-hmm. And so they want to cover as much ground as they can, of course. But over the years of myself, when I've done it, I've tried to get to know the location, the owners, and be able to go back over and over and build a relationship with the space. Mm-hmm. And that's what I really love doing. But I mean, I can see how you'd want to have all your bases covered when you have a short amount of time with the space. But, like I said, I like to go back to previous spots and just get to know it. Because it's like these places, these buildings, they're like a living thing as well. It's hard to explain, but I always, if I feel a connection with the place, I love just going back to it and really just keeping it to the bare minimum, like a camera, video camera, just myself, or a few people. I don't need to have a big circus. I'm crazy enough just myself, I don't need to bring any more gadgets with me.
And I literally, and I only mentioned that I did have somebody show up once to an area, and they showed up with like a big screen on their back, and they were running all their electronics. And I mean, they were watching this big screen all night, and it's like, that's blinding to what actually is taking place. But yeah, I agree with you. If you got to have your bases covered in these areas, and I get the technological aspect too. I mean, I do see the need for that.
Oh, and technology is such an awesome thing. Like, don't get me wrong. I think it's absolutely amazing. But I'm just such an old school kind of person with that. Because to me, no matter what, like with my YouTube channel and everything, if you're watching that to see ghosts, it's not going to be the best channel for you. But if you want to hear a really awesome story and learn some history about the place, I mean, that's the kind of thing I'm going to, and then just having fun with all of it, taking myself lightly, because people take themselves so seriously in this field. I mean, don't you think? And it's okay to do it to a point, but
sure,
after a while, it just gets a little tiring for me.
Oh yeah,
I like
for sure.
being able to just be, be like how I would with anyone when I'm visiting a haunted spot. Just because me personally, I love the UFO aspect and the crypto, but hauntings and things like that, that's kind of my thing. Mm-hmm. That's where I have the most experience with and the most connection. So it's just different. It's different for everyone. And that's what's so cool about all of this, is like you can take from it what you need.
Yeah, the paranormal is such a wide field. Like, it encompasses such a huge spectrum. And I wanted to ask you about some of your ghost hunts. What have been the best? Where have you gone? Where do you recommend? And you went to the Whitmore Mansion, am I right? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the Whitmore in Nephi.
Mm-hmm.
I met, I think her name's Jacqueline. We went there, and it was the beautiful. Have you been there?
No, I have only seen pictures. I want to go really bad.
She had so many stories. If anyone can get a chance to go out there, I believe her name's Jacqueline. She runs an escape room from the basement, which is really cool. And then she has this beautiful, Victorian mansion, tons of stories. She takes you on a candlelit tour of the house and just lets you see everything. But it was, oh gosh, I could go there every day. I just was drawn to it immediately. And I talked to her since, and I'm hoping to go pretty soon again. So it's just a lovely spot that's super close by to me.
Yeah, it looks amazing. And you've gone to a bunch of other places too. What are some of your favorite, what have been some of your most extreme experiences, and where have you had them?
Well, definitely over near Skinwalker Ranch is in my top, of course. Uh-huh. But my favorite will always be the Queen Mary. The poor ship. Have you heard the news about this ship?
No, tell me more.
Possibly going to capsize, and they've run out of money to repair it, and it's just sitting there, just sinking in the bay there in Long Beach. I'm just so sad. If anything like that happened, I don't know. It's such a neat place. And, I mean, you've been, right?
Never. I've never been. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
I need to go, obviously.
You may not be able to now, Ryan, because I think it's like the poor thing's history.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going through this legal battle with the city, and it's just too much money to even have it there, so they're thinking of just letting it rot. And it would just be terrible, because I've had, my first, documented full-body apparition was there on that ship. The first time I ever had something, attach itself and come back with me for months at a time was because of the Queen Mary. I've gotten my best EVPs and evidence there, and it's one of those other spots where I immediately felt like I'd been there before in a different life or something. You know, I don't know what you believe, but it was as if I'd lived a life on this ship before I ever even set foot on it. It's like I knew where to go. I knew where the rooms were. I knew how to get around, and I'd never been or even researched it before I had visited. And I think I've been over 100 times since. But it's just such a neat place of, you know, World War II history, so many cool stories, so many ghosts. So haunted, Ryan. It's the most haunted place. I'm telling you.
Man, I got an invitation to go out there pre-COVID, and I blew it. And now I'm like super bummed that this has taken place.
I know. I just talked to, if you remember Sarah, a mutual friend of ours.
Of course.
She got to go one last time, you know, before they shut it down. But even how I met her was through the Queen Mary. It was because of a ghost that was haunting me from that ship. Like I had met her at a conference with the Ghost Hunters, the TV show, and I was working with a group that worked with them, and I met her on back in 2004, and we had such a great time. And I left after that week, and I didn't get her number. And then that's when we had all those crazy experiences with the full-body apparitions and the EVPs and some of the best evidence ever. And then I went back to Utah, and I was getting haunted by this man in a tuxedo that would just stand by my bed at night. And I knew that it was like The Shining, you know, the guy in The Shining with his little glass.
Yeah.
And I just knew he was from the ship. And so for like months, I was telling my boyfriend at the time, like, I need to go back to the ship for some reason. And I had this really strong connection with Sarah. And I told him about her and how I wish I had, and this was before Facebook, you know. And I had no way to find her. I didn't remember her last name. But I remember we got back on that ship months after, drove to California. I'm talking about her to my boyfriend in our cabin. And I open the door and walk out, and she's standing there in the hallway. And she was prompted to just come on that exact day after months, and had been in the same boat where she'd been having weird things happen. And she just also wanted to somehow find a way to connect with me. And I just thought, wow, the ship did this. Like, it's crazy.
Whoa, that's
and
crazy.
You know, we've had a friendship for decades. So, yeah, that place is going to always be a special spot for me. Other than that, I mean, Utah, Salt Lake City, is any building you could throw a rock at has a crazy story.
True.
I would say, sorry, I'm drawing a blank here. 1 second.
Salt Lake has a lot of them. You're right. There's just every corner.
Definitely the Depot. The Depot is a nightclub in Salt Lake.
Yep.
And we did an investigation there with the haunted bathroom. Remember the haunted?
Oh my gosh.
What was it? The haunted women's restroom.
I think it was the women's. Yes.
And do you want to tell the story about the toilets?
You know what? I'm going to let you take it, but it's crazy. It's crazy. The toilets would flush.
Yeah, the toilets would flush like on command. I remember the sinks would turn on. The crazy thing, this nightclub is connected to an actual train station, which is the Rio Grande there in Salt Lake. And so there's a long hallway upstairs in this part of the building where there's bars and restrooms. And, you know, women were reporting getting attacked in the stalls by this black shadow figure. And someone in our group actually got a photo, and it's an exact outline of a man, but it's completely black. And it's really unnerving looking. Especially that he's attacking, you know, there were women they'd be running out into the night because they were getting attacked by nothing. And so we would investigate there a few times, but I remember one night I was standing in the hall outside of the restroom, and my friend Jim was in the restrooms, and behind me was the long wall where the other side of the door for the bathrooms, and on the other side of that wall is the grand train station area, so it's probably 50 feet down below me. Mm-hmm. And a man just walks right through the wall, and
whoa,
like clear as you or me, and just walked right through the wall. So he had to have been floating 50 feet above the air, and then walked right through the wall, and then walked right into the wall where Jim was in the restroom. And I like dropped to the ground because I just wasn't expecting it, like a man to pop out of the wall. Like, it was crazy, and it was so. You would never have thought it was a ghost. But he went through the wall. And so that one scared me because I don't like being startled. Probably in the wrong business, right?
Yeah.
But that train station's crazy. I mean, I went to the Great Saltaire the other day and spent the evening there, and that place has a crazy history.
How cool. Yeah.
And again, in the restrooms at the Saltaire, I've sat and watched the faucets in the men's room turn themselves on, and they're old school faucets, and just do them in a row, three sinks in a row, while I'm just standing there. And there's a lot of sad stories around that building, a lot of deaths and murders. It's got a pretty dark history, but I know there's a few ghost hunting groups that are going to be putting out shows on that soon, so that'll be interesting to see.
That will be cool. Now, how many times, I don't want to mess this up, you would know better than I, how many times has that place burned down?
Probably at least twice or three times.
Wow.
I know it burnt down, and then they kind of rebuilt it in the 80s, and it was nowhere near its former glory. I mean, it was the Coney Island of the West. It was amazing in the 1800s when it was built. But then it burnt down in the 20s, I think, mm-hmm. And then it just kind of sat vacant for years, and then they rebuilt it in like 82, and then in 84, the Great Flood of Salt Lake, 84, I believe, or something, came and just wiped out the building again and flooded it. So the poor thing, it's just had a rough time, you know?
Yes.
So, but it's still standing. It's now used for raves, primarily, and big, nightclub parties.
Yeah, I think
all things I haven't done in years.
I know. I think the last time I went there had to be a decade ago, and it was for a concert. So that shows how much I know.
Yeah, that's about all it's used for now. But that's a real eerie place. And same with Ogden. Like, don't even get me started with the city of Ogden. Like, Ogden, what's going on?
Yeah, have you been to the Ben Lomond or any of the haunted buildings there?
I have. Yeah, I don't recall anything happening there at the hotel, but the Ogden Exchange building, I just did a video on it like 2 days ago on my channel. But the Ogden Exchange building was a livestock exchange building that was built in like 1931, and in its history, it was used as a bank, as even Weber County Mental Health, so it was like a methadone clinic. And there's just tons of colorful stories of murders, suicides, and then, of course, there's an EVP that was caught there on a night that I visited, where you can hear someone in a tub drowning and asking for help, and there's no water in that building. There hadn't been for years, and it's been like on the Art Bell show. If you were to Google it or go to my video, I put a link. It's like the clearest, and the EVP goes on for, like, I want to say 5 to 7 minutes.
This sounds horrifying.
It is. And I remember the night it was taken because we had gone in different groups to different parts of the building. Have you been there, or?
Yes.
You have? Okay. Oh, I remember, and your mom's come.
Mm-hmm.
It's been such a long time, and I have a bad memory nowadays. But I've had some of the craziest experiences down in that basement where they say there was a morgue. They also say there are tunnels that connect that building to the high school and to the Ben Lomond and other buildings because they were built by the same architect. And they were used like during Prohibition and things like that. But I went and saw the building the other day, and the poor thing's falling over.
Right.
I hope they get it fixed. It's just gorgeous.
I have like a romantic love affair with those old buildings, and I cannot believe when they knock them down or let them go. It's just, what are they doing?
I know. I could see that they're cataloging all of the fallen stones. I mean, this building is just such a prime example of Art Deco architecture, which is my favorite. And there's ram heads, on the columns that have fallen to the ground, and just the brickwork and beautiful, like Corinthian columns inside. So it looks like they're trying to restore it, but I mean, it's going to take so much to fix it. But I hope they do, because it's such a cool place, and just so many crazy nights investigating there. The woman who owned it actually wanted to turn it into her residence to live in, which I thought she was crazy. Mm-hmm. There's no way I could live in that building. It was just so noisy with activity. But it sure has a neat history. So I do hope they restore it, because it's one of a kind.
And you're right about
Ogden itself.
Ogden's crazy.
It used to be. It was known as the gateway to the West. Had the highest crime rate in the entire country. Wow. And then, we got that transcontinental railroad, and it just really, it was like brothel on every corner, people getting shot in the street. It was the Wild West.
O-Town.
So
and
there are so many stories.
And, I had an experience at the Ben Lomond. I don't know. Now I always feel like I'm saying it wrong, but
you just make it sound fancier, so I like that.
Yeah, it's not that fancy. But I remember the lights would switch on and off to the point where we had to be moved out of our room. And so there is something about that hotel, and Ogden in general, like you said, used to be such a mecca of just craziness.
Yeah, I'll never forget the first time I ever entered the valley of Ogden, because it wasn't until I was in my 20s. And I remember my whole body just, I was just overcome with like the most anxiety I've ever felt. And not saying anything against the city. It's a gorgeous city now. They've done great things with it. And the people are awesome there. But there's just a vibe. And me just being sensitive to areas with a lot of hauntings, or whatever you'd call that, it was overwhelming. Like, I couldn't even deal with it. I had to leave. I just got physically ill. But over the years, it's fine. But I just remember that first time, I was like, where am I going? What is this place? Very Twilight Zone-y.
Very Twilight Zone-y, yes.
Yeah. It just kind of feels like its own little world. But yeah, like I said, I went back just this last weekend. I hadn't been there in probably at least 5 or 6 years. And it looks so completely different even in that time. But Utah is the Wild West. There's anywhere you go here, there's a story. If you go to a historic building, something crazy's gone down. So if you're looking for a ghost or two, this is definitely the place.
It is. And you don't stick to Utah, though. You go all over the place. I noticed that you come down to Nevada quite often, and you've done some investigations down here.
I started doing that during the pandemic just because, it's hard to get permission to go to any places. And, I mean, if anyone wants me to come and investigate, I'm all for it. But, everyone's doing it now, so it's just kind of oversaturated. And So I figured the only place I can really go and not get arrested is probably a hotel. Mm-hmm. And hotels have always been my favorite sort of haunted destination. You know, I love a good hotel. Like, there's so many stories. You know, the Stanley Hotel, that's where I had my honeymoon. Stephen King wrote The Shining there. There's just something about the energy of a hotel, and Vegas just has so many stories, as you know. I stayed at, you know, Bally's recently, which a lot of people don't know used to be the MGM Grand, mm-hmm. and it was in a horrible fire in the 80s. And so a lot of people died there, but the building is still standing and being used as a hotel. So I love the stories of Vegas. I grew up going there as a kid every summer. And you know, of course, there's such a colorful history in Las Vegas. There's no shortage of ghost stories there either. And it's just a hop over on the freeway.
That's true.
But, you know, now that the world's kind of opening back up, I'm planning in the next few months to go to Savannah, Georgia, see some of the old plantations.
Nice.
And then go to Gettysburg, which I've always wanted to do. I've never been there, so we're going to go there in September. So I'll be sure to let you know if I find anything.
Well, I think you got 2 epic trips ahead of you. I'm so peanut butter and jealous on both of those. Gettysburg is supposed to be just over the top.
Oh, I know. I can't even imagine how that's going to feel to visit. And then, of course, I'm going to go up to upstate New York. That place is just filled with awesome history, and visit our friend Janice. I'm going to see her in September. So I'm excited. That's what I love to do. Like I said, I love a good story. I love a good old building. There's just something about it for me that I just love it.
Heck yeah. And we'll have to investigate again soon. I wish I was going up to say hi to Janice too. Haven't been up that way. And for our listeners, where can they keep up with your new YouTube channel, the Paranormal Polynesian, and whatever else you have going on?
Oh, yeah. It's just the Paranormal Polynesian on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I'm working on a Patreon. I don't know what that is.
Sweet.
But I heard it's a good thing, so that'll be up. That'll be up soon. But it's all just under the Paranormal Polynesian, so pretty easy to find.
Man, that's awesome. And I can't thank you enough for carving away a little time to chat and come on the podcast. I hope we connect soon and hopefully have a little high strangeness there.
I know, me too. Thank you so much for having me, Ryan. I appreciate it.
All right, take care, my man. We'll talk soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Well, there you have it. The Paranormal Polynesian, Adam Taula himself, going into the high strangeness of Utah, the Uinta Basin, Ogden, and, well, his favorite, Queen Mary. I really feel like I missed the boat, no pun intended. I think that's something that I had an opportunity to do. I may not be able to rise to the occasion to do it now, given the current circumstances. So for all of you that got to visit that, kudos. And that's how these things go. It moves quickly, and life moves quickly. You've got to jump on these opportunities while you can, and definitely jump on heroparanormal.com, smash that donate button, join the inner circle, or go to Patreon. And definitely support Adam Taula at the Paranormal Polynesian on YouTube, and when he gets his Patreon up, support him there. Again, thanks for listening in, and until next time, keep your eyes to the skies, feet on the ground, but don't forget to take a look around.
Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Visine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off. Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Visine. Blast off, blast off, blast off.